Dhamma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 27th of June 1961. Polishing the Mind. At Savatthi, Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery, Ven. Sariputta, Maha Moggallana and many monks were there. They requested Sariputta to give a teaching. He delivered the following teaching. From the Majjhima Nikaya, Aningana Sutta, MN.5 Anangana Suttam. There were 4 types of persons in the world. 1. Someone had a lot of defilements and didn't know about it. He was an inferior person. 2. Someone had a lot of defilements and knew about it. He was a superior person. 3. Someone had few of defilements, didn't know about it. He was an inferior person. 4. Someone had few of defilements and knew about it. He was a superior person. Sayadaw gave this talk for the yogis to make corrections for themselves. Sariputta gave the similes for these 4 persons. 1. A man bought a dirty bronze bowl from a marketplace and let it at home near a dirty corner and never cleaned it. And it became dirtier every day. 2. A man bought a dirty bronze bowl and at home looked after it very well. He polished it every day and became brighter and brighter. 3. A man bought a clean bronze bowl and at home threw it near a dirty corner. And every day it became dirtier. 4. A man bought a clean bronze bowl and at home he looked after it very well and polished it every day and became shining. The meanings of the similes are as follow. The first man is born with a lot of defilements and doesn't know about it. So he associates with bad companions and goes to unsuitable and improper places and done many bad things. His mind becomes more and more defiled. The second man is also born with a lot of defilements and knows about it. And he associates with good friends, restrains himself, does good things and cultivates mind development. So his mind becomes purer. The third man born with fewer defilements and doesn't know about it and associates with bad companions, goes to unsuitable places and done many bad things. His mind becomes defiled. The fourth man born with fewer defilements and knows about it, associates with good companions, restrains himself, does good things and cultivates mind development. So his mind becomes easily pure. Combine the first and the third persons and end up in the same ways and results. The second and the fourth are also end up with the same results and can realize Nibbāna in this life or next life. Everyone should check himself with the 4 persons, correct mistakes and look after them themselves, and practice diligently in this life to end dukkha. Closing square bracket. A person without knowing himself has defilements and the desire will never arise in his mind to clean it. And continue to do things connections with greed, hatred and delusion. He has defilements and making it more and more defiled. He will become more and more foolish without practice Vipassanā, being born in the plains of misery after death. In this world there are too many people of this type. The second person knows he himself has defilements and practices Vipassanā. He'll be born in the plains of bliss and realize Nibbāna after death. The third person was born with less defilement and without knowing it and wandering amongst the forest of sensual objects. His defilements are rising up and increasing. With wrong companions and going amongst the 5 strands of sensual pleasures, Kamma. A person, even with paramis, has bad companions and going to the bad places, done bad things and his defilements becomes thicker and thicker. A very good example was Prince Ajatasattu associated with Devadatta and the outcome was very grave. The fourth person sometimes he is unavoidable has to go amongst the sensual pleasure, but very careful to stay away from them and moving around with Vipassana knowledge. Dhamma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 28th of June 1961. Searching for the right things. A person doesn't know the truth is only turning towards dukkha. Men are searching for women and women are searching for men. They are searching for the wrong thing. The real searching is for the truth. The truth still exists in the world, but people are searching for dana, sila and samatha practices. Sayadaw gave the simile of a blind turtle in the ocean for the rarity of getting the human existence. After that, he continued to talk about the Bodhisattva's two former teachers, Alara Kalama and Uddaka Ramaputta. They were Arapayana attainers but did not have the chance for enlightenment. Sayadaw wanted to emphasize the difficulty of having the opportunity to practice the truth. These examples are describing your power of the good Kamma. And therefore do not be lazy. Even the Bodhisattva without knowing the truth sometimes born as animals, for example, Uridatta, the serpent king or king of Naga. This point is very important. Any being without destroying the seed of the identity view, Sakkaya Ditthi, can be fallen into the four planes of misery in the round of existence. Even the real bodhisattvas were no exception, and no need to say about the unreal ones. There were 550 Jataka stories of the Buddha's past lives as bodhisattva, and he was born as animals for many times. In one life as the Prince Temiya, even had mentioned once in hell before, also Temiya. J. Vi. 3, the Muggapaka Jataka. But there are some misconceptions about bodhisattvas always living in heaven and other things. In the world there is no greater fault than not knowing the truth. Sayadaw explained the three knowledges as mentioned in the first discourse of the Buddha. These are Sakka Ñāṇa, Kika Ñāṇa and Kata Ñāṇa. Maybe these are able to be translated as theoretical knowledge, practical knowledge and resultant knowledge. Sakka Ñāṇa is the lower knowledge. Kika Ñāṇa is the middle knowledge. Kata Ñāṇa is the higher knowledge. Listening to what I am saying and paying attention to the khandha. Whatever arising in the khandha and knowing as Dukkha Sakka is Sakka Ñāṇa, exception of Lobha. It's not including Anicca yet. At the moment of arising and knowing is Sakka Ñāṇa. Wanting something or wanting to do something is Samadaya Sakka, only Lobha. Samadaya ceases is Nirodha Sakka. To know whatever arising is Magga Sakka. All these are ordinary knowing. This is with the help of a teacher. These are the way of knowing in details, not a combined knowing. Every time Dhamma arises in the khandha by knowing these 4 points with the analytical knowledge is Sakka Ñāṇa. Even this lower knowledge is not everyone knowing it. Knowing these things is coming from the help of a teacher's explanation. Even Alara Kalama and Uddaka Ramaputta didn't know this knowledge. This way of knowing was listening to the Dhamma by the group of 5 monks. Panka Vajjiya Bhikkhus, the first 5 disciples of the Buddha. How can someone knows the arising Dhamma if he never heard about these Dhammas? Every time with the truth of arising and knowing of it is Sakka Ñāṇa. Kika Ñāṇa. Whatever arises in the khandha is rising and passing away. Knowing thoroughly as impermanence is Dukkha Sakka. Knowing thoroughly as it is Dukkha arising and Dukkha vanishing. This is fully understanding of Dukkha Sakka, Paranaya. There is nothing existing except of Dukkha Sakka. Kika is one thing and Ñāṇa is another thing. The object is Kika and contemplative mind is Ñāṇa. Kika Ñāṇa is the practice, contemplation. You'll become a disadvantaged person if you don't have this knowledge. Penetrative knowing is knowing thoroughly. Sakka Ñāṇa is ordinary knowing. Contemplation is doing the Kika Ñāṇa. What I am worrying about you is Ñāṇa not turning towards the khandha's Kika, function of the khandha. Khandha is always telling us its function. Ñāṇa not turning towards it that cannot get the Kika Ñāṇa. Dhamma talks by Mogok Sayadaw, 29th and the 30th of June, morning and evening, 1961, the 1st of July 1961. Practical knowledge of Dukkha. Sayadaw gave 4 talks on Kika Ñāṇa connection to the 4 functions of Dukkha Sakka, Palanata, oppressive, Sankathatha, conditioning, Santapata, burning, and Viparinamatha, changing. T1. Sayadaw said, Kika Ñāṇa was Vipasana Ñāṇa, so you had to develop for many times, Bhavatabha. By seeing Anicca at the same time and discern the 4 truths. Seeing the khandha, any one of the 5 khandhas, arises is Dukkha arising, Seeing impermanence is Magga Ñāṇa, Tanha not arising is Samadaya, and not creating another Khandha is Nirodha. Closing square bracket. A person not knowing the truth is like a blind man moving around, walking around with two of the wholesome and unwholesome legs. That is avijja pakaya sankhara, ignorance conditions volitional formation. Here the blind man is ignorance. Moving around with two legs are positive and negative actions. Can not every dana, giving, realize Nibbāna? If it is led by ignorance, including Tanha itself, then you will not get it. Nibbāna is without them. Therefore these two legs, wholesome and unwholesome, are moving towards dukkha in the whole round of existence, samsara. It is like a blind man moving around. Blind man walking around and falling down is dukkha sakha, jati, because of avijja and sankhara receiving birth, jati, khandhas. After falling down, and what happened to him? He gets injuries. Get it back again, the source of dukkha. Vinanam pakaya nama rupam rebirth consciousness conditions mind, body. From nama rupam pakaya salayatanam mind, body conditions 6 sense bases. 6 sense bases are like infested wounds with pus and blood oozing out. These are happening in the 6 sense bases. Phassa pakaya vedana contact conditions feeling. Contact here means making your way in the thorny forest. Do not forget about the blind man is ignorance. So, it is like a cane falling down on the wounds. And the feelings are arising. After knowing these things and the khandha's nature, you do not desire it again. Ignorance becomes knowledge, avijja to vijja. The mind becomes clean and pure. During listening to the talk, I am showing you the fault of the deed. A process. And you don't have pleasure and enjoyment in it. Become not desiring this khandha and not wishing a new khandha. At that time have to analyze the truth. In the mind, knowledge of non-greed arises. In sakha ñāṇa have to know dukkha and samadaya arise. And to know their cessation, i.e., nirodha. Knowing them is magga sakha. Every arising phenomenon has to know these 4 points. Today I'll talk about kikha ñāṇa, dukkha, samadaya, nirodha and magga, all 4 of them. You have to ask, what are their function? To know about them is kikha ñāṇa. This knowledge is more important than sakha ñāṇa. This is a very rare opportunity to hear about it. During listening, don't let other mind states come in. This is an important time. Recounted the story of layman Paya during the time of Kassapa Buddha. At that time his mind was clean and pure. And then the Buddha was in ready to talk about Sakha Dhamma. But at that moment he had some business and got up and left the place. Because of that he missed the chance for realization. He had to wait for another chance to come quite a very long time. This was at the time of Gautama Buddha. It's the time of turning your mind on the khandha for practice. So, turn your mind on it. Now, you have already listening to the talk for 45 minutes. Feelings are arising in the khandha. These feelings are oppressing the body, mind. This khandha has the power of oppression, dukkasa pilanatho. It has the nature of oppression. This feeling arising is for the oppression of other khandhas. Whatever arises in the khandha and know it as oppressive. Knowing it thoroughly as accept has the oppressive function and no other matters. At that time of knowing, samadaya not arises and dies away. This is called cessation by not arising, anupada nirodho. The function of knowing, magga sakha, is also doing the expelling function of samadaya tanha. This is tanha nirodha, cessation of craving. Observing the oppression again and again is bhavatabha. It is bhavatabha by contemplation with magga sakha for many times on the oppression of dukkha. Kilesa also ceases for many times. At the same time is performing the 4 truths. Kilesa ceases by not arising is nirodha. Tanha nirodho nibbānam, tanha extinguished is nibbāna. You will finish your task by practice and not by paramis if you contemplate in this way. T2, Morning Talk. In Sakka Dhamma, Sakka is truth and Dhamma also is truth. There is nothing truer than that. Other dharmas can be said as not truth. It will give you the result at some time if you have done dana, giving. But if other unwholesome dharma comes in and destruct, it will not give the result. Practice sila, virtues, for long life, but it becomes short life if other unwholesome kammas come in. All these things are important for reflection. The functioning of law of Kamma is not very simple. Only the Buddha fully comprehended it. If not, we can be in misunderstanding and lost faith in it. The situations can be changed if some conditions come in. Samatha dharmas are also the same. Sayadaw recounted back to the blind man simile in the first talk. The blind man is looking for medicines after he is getting the different kinds of feeling, but it will not be a good one. Vedana pakaya tanna, feeling conditions craving. This is looking for medicines. Taking the wrong medicine and even the old wound is not cured, instead getting a new wound. Kamma pakaya jati, action conditions birth. This is a new wound. Your situation is like a monkey, gets a wound on the body. The wound is not cured and even becomes worse by scratching. If you can't find or get a good teacher, then it is developing of wounds and nothing. Majority of people are thinking that indulgence in sensual pleasure is development. So they find ways to indulgence for sensual pleasures. This is the outcome of modern science and technology, with inventions for sensual pleasure. In this 31 realms of existence and having different kinds of birth are blind people moving around there. It is not easy to teach people on truth, because they had been blinded for a long time, for many lives, now. It will be quite difficult to cure them. Now you are coming here for listening talk is looking for the medicine. This time is the best. You have to take the chance for treatment. If you do not, then next time will be not easy. Maybe you will not find a good teacher. Even have a good teacher, maybe you will not live for long enough. Sayadaw continued to explain the truth by using Cittanupassana. For example, seeing consciousness arises. Seeing consciousness is the wound with pus. This is Dukkha Sakka. Different kinds of mind arise and know them as Dukkha Sakka. It is Kika Nana thoroughly to know them as diseases, Rogato, as arising by the conditions of ignorance and craving of past life. The Kamma of past life made the arrangement to be here. Sankatatho, this is the Dukkha Sakka of condition by Tanna. The impermanence of minds are Dukkha and conditions by Tanna. Discerning impermanence every time is Kika Nana. It's also conditioning by Kamma. The eyes are becoming not clear, aging, and become damaged, etc. The Kanda is talking about its function, Kika. Knowing is Nana, therefore Kika Nana. Do you still desire these kinds of eyes? Tanna, Upadana and Kamma not arise. The four truths are including in the Kika Nana. So, just contemplate impermanence. Even you don't know about them and all four truths are including in it. T3, Evening Talk. The Buddha said that he was realizing enlightenment by knowing the causes of the arising of living beings and the cessation of them. It's the arising of ignorance and the cessation of it. Today I'll talk about the Kika Nana of Santapata, burning with Kilesa fire. Dukkha Sakka of the Kanda is always burning with Kilesa. Beings are always burning with the Kilesa fire. See the Fire Discourse to the Kassapas Brothers of Fire Worshipping Ascetics, SN.35.28 Adittasuttam. Mind, body are burning with fire. This Kanda is burning with 11 kinds of fire: lust, raga, hatred, dosa, delusion, moha, birth, jati, aging, jara, death, marana, sorrow, soka, lamentation, parideva, pain, dukkha, grief, domanassa, despair, upayasa. So, it is Dukkha Sakka. It has the function of always burning with Kilesa fire. Every phenomenon of arising and falling away has to be contemplated in this way. Prince Ajatasattu was burned by Kalesa fire of greed and hatred, and killed his father. So his perfection of becoming a Sotapanna was also burned down by it. His good kammas were nullified, became a Hosakamma. Is there any Dhamma not vanishing in the Kanda? Contemplate every arising and vanishing phenomenon as burning with fire and disappearing. Then you get the Santapata Kika Nana. You see the mind and body dharmas as after burning and vanishing is Kika Nana. After that you don't see any function of the burning process. The function of burning with fire is gone. This is seeing Nibbāna. The fuels, khandhas, are consumed and fire, kalesas, extinguished. It's kata nana. Mind and body are not arising as before as the fuels are consumed. Craving and clinging are not following after as the fire extinguished. Kika nana is seeing the fuels and fire are burning. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha said, if someone gets Kika nana and Nibbāna is near to him. T4. Arriving to the hell and the hell fire there is so strong that it nearly blinds the eyes. By hearing the crying of the hell beings and ears are nearly deaf. The smell there is also so terrible that the nose nearly falling off. The hell foods and drinks go into the mouth are burning the small and large intestines and falling out at the bottom. The clothes in the hell are touching the body also burn it down. Even thoughts are burning in the hell. Nothing is good there. It is called Maha Paralaha hell, the hell of great burning. Even though the hell beings will still have the chances to be free from there. But not knowing the truth is more terrible than that. Why is that? It's because not knowing ignorance, avidya, is establishing these hells. These do not naturally appear. These are the works, kammas, of people who do not know the truths. The things in hell and fall into it are creating by one's own unwholesome kamma, not created by God. Wanting to go to hell is very easy and also easy to cut it off. Everything of arising must know as Dukkha Sakka. You have to be afraid of not knowing to cut off your own deed. A. Process. Do not be afraid of the hell. The doors to the plains of misery are closed by knowing the truths. Kammas are opening the doors and nana closing it. Kammas opened the doors did not mean it normally opened by itself. Taking it as one's own kammas is making ready for it. This is one of the important points that we can change our kammas. For example, Subrahma Devata and his 500 celestial nymphs kammas were making ready for them to go there after death. They were listening to the Buddha's teaching and nullified its result. In the same way by wholesome merits celestial mansions were appeared in the heaven, e.g., Nandya Upasaka, DHP 219-220, DHA. E. 290 FF, VV. PTS, number 862. One's dukkha is establishing by one's D. A. Process. It can't do anything by kamma alone. Kamma do the jobs with the arrangement of kalesas. Do not be afraid of kamma but to kalesas. For example, the arrow and the shooter, arrow is like kamma and the shooter is kalesas. Between them, you have to be afraid of the shooter and not for the arrow. The Buddha never taught not to think about things but just thought about the truths, for Nibbāna, if you wanted. Thinking with greed, hatred and harmfulness, then craving, conceit and wrong view, tanha, mana, ditthi, will arise. Today I will talk about change, viparinama, in Dukkha Sakka. Change exists is Dukkha Sakka and not exists is Nirodha Sakka. Arising and vanishing are called viparinama, changing or discarding one's nature. If you can observe the change becomes kika nana. The arising and vanishing are the functions, kika, of the mind, body process. The knowing is nana. Changing and destruction are not happening without causes. It happens by aging and death, jara and marana, in itself. Dhamma talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 1st of August 1961. The art of thinking. During the contemplation of one's khandha, mind and body only exist as rise and fall. Khandha only has impermanence. Observe them and only see impermanence. And then your both eyes have light. With the traditional eyes of the parents we take it as this is my son, my daughter, etc. If dying in this way we are born and die as blind people and end up in the coffins. It's a great loss. Therefore the Buddha said about us as we were blind and crazy worldlings. What does it look like? Earthworms have no eyes by birth. They are moving blindly here and there and encounter deaths. It's interesting to observe earthworms. They come out during the winter season and have a lot of difficult times. It has a difficult life. Poor things. Closing parenthesis. You all will be born as animals, living as animals and die as animals if without seeing impermanence and dying. I urge you to work hard for this right view. And die in this way and not born in the plains of misery. Try hard for what the Khandha has in itself and knowing it accordingly. This becomes the eyes of right view, Samaditthi eyes, which know rightly. With this view and following it to the end will die with smile. If die with blindness, at near death will see mountain, hills and forest, hell fire, etc. Crying with fright, fear and struggle, in this kind of situation will die badly. Dying with fright and fear is an ugly death with grimace. You'll reach toward Nibbāna if you die with the four path knowledges, i.e., as an arahant. If not, reaching toward Nibbāna, at least, you will reach toward good destinations, sugati. The Buddha was reminding the monks to do the practice for 1792 times in his life. Now you find these sense objects, sensual pleasure, and don't take it highly. These are not the salvation Dhamma. They are big enemies, referred to the sense objects of family members and wealth. If you take care of them more than its need will die badly. A monk asked the Buddha about the lifespan of a hell being. How long does it take time to be suffered in hell, then? Bhante. I can't tell you. The Buddha knew it, but it took so long that couldn't talk about it. If you're really sick, even have millions of dollars can't cure it, or make it better, referred to near-death illness. Observe the Khandha to see its rise and fall asubha. And then continue to observe until you don't desire it. You'll see the disappearance of the Khandha, which is Nibbāna. People don't desire Nibbāna because there is no Khandha. In truth the bad thing disappears and the good one appears. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha taught us as if we wanted to thought about Sakka Dharma, not on children and business. But you all are thinking about going to the plains of misery. Thinking about the truths is Vipassana contemplation. The arising Dharma is Dukkha Sakka and knowing is Magga Sakka. Think in this way if you want to think. But you do not think about closing the door of misery, instead the opening of it. You have to reduce all these things. The doors of misery are opening by our craving, Samadaya Sakka. If you want to close them, only Ñāṇa, Magga Sakka, will do it. From here you are constructing the hell wok, cauldron. And also from here you can extinguish the hell fire. For example, like an electric button can swift on and swift off from here. Sayadaw recounted the Upasaka Nandiya's story. Even before you are going there the woks are boiling and waiting for you. These are establishing from the human world. From the human world you can also make the hell woks and celestial mansions to disappear. You all are following and developing the cauldron line, like a factory making woks. Therefore human world is very precious. Most human beings from the human plane are creating all sorts of Kamma and going to the other planes as an international airport. Every time not knowing the arising Dharma, it becomes avijja pakaya sankara, ignorance conditions, volitional formation, right pointing arrow jati, birth. You will go to the miserable planes if you do not know how to think. And know how to think, will go to Nibbāna. Knowing of how to think is right thought, Samma Sankappa. With right thought and seeing is right view, Samma Ditthi. Good thoughts are right thought. with good thought and knowing rightly is right view. Do not think about sensual thoughts, Kamma Vitaka, thought of ill will, Vyapada Vitaka, and thought of harming, Vihimsa Vitaka. Instead think about renunciation, Nekkhamma Vitaka, without ill will or with love, Avyapada, and harmlessness, Avahimsa. In accordance with our parent tradition, people have big thoughts. It comes a big wok with a big thought. Do you want to compete with each other which one's wok is bigger? You will get magga if you contemplate whatever arising as dukkha sakka. In this way kilesa becomes thinner and thinner. At last it ceases and will reach Nibbāna. Do you know how to think it in beds? These words referred to majority, but he had many upper-class disciples sitting in front of him. Nowadays many politicians, industrialists and economists are thinking the biggest woks in beds. Right thought is an important Dhamma to Nibbāna. Dhamma talks by Mogok Sayadaw, 3rd and 4th of August 1961. 12 Perversions. There are 12 inversions, vipalasas, i.e., 3 wrong attitudes to the 4 subjects. 3 times 4 equals 12, 3 wrong attitudes are wrong perception, wrong knowing and wrong viewing. The 4 subjects are taking impermanence, anicca, as to be permanence, nikka, suffering, dukkha, as happiness, sukha, not self, anatta, as self, atta, and foulness, asubha, as beauty, subha. Without knowing the mistakes we are constructing perversive walls again and it become taller and darker. The Buddha gave an example of throwing a pebble upwardly to the sky and it stays a moment in the mid-air and then falls down again. In the same way living beings come to this human world for a short moment like the pebble in the mid-air. But falling into the plains of misery is longer like the pebble staying on the ground. Your business and wealth are becoming useless after you die. Every day you have to make adjustment to the khandha and request for long life, using foods, medicines and other things, etc. We get the khandha for making these 3 mistakes. You'll become an arahant if you transcend them all. You'll get the first Nibbāna if you can eradicate the 3rd mistake, i.e., Ditthi Vipalasa. You will become Sakadagaman and Anagaman if you can overcome the 1st mistake, i.e., Sana Vipalasa, becoming an arahant if overcoming the 2nd mistake, i.e., Chitta Vipalasa. The first path knowledge eradicated 8 factors of inversion, i.e., view of permanence, view of happiness, view of beauty, view of self, perception of permanence, knowing of permanence, perception of self and knowing of self. The 2nd and 3rd path knowledges eradicated 2 factors and the 4th path knowledge eradicated 2 factors. One can't get the first Nibbāna without eradicated wrong view. One can't get the 2nd and 3rd Nibbāna without eradicated wrong perception. One can't realize the 4th Nibbāna without eradicated beauty and happiness, subha and sukha, according to the Anguttara Nikaya. I'll explain about the practice. In your khandha originally exists is impermanence, suffering, not self and foulness. To these 4 subjects multiply with wrong perception, wrong knowing and wrong viewing factors and become 12 inversions. These dharmas are happening uncountable in everyday life. Kamma can't send you to Nibbāna but Ñāṇa can. There is no good Kamma directly to Nibbāna, but with good Ñāṇa will get it. There were many Buddhas had arisen uncountable in the world. But living beings were for many lives surrounded themselves with many walls of inversions that Buddhas couldn't enter to them. And light of Dhamma couldn't enter through them. Jhanas, path and fruition knowledges can't be attained by practicing with dana, sila and prayer. They only can be attained with direct practice of samatha and vipassana. If you still can't get Nibbāna even with direct practice, then your kilesas are thick. Do not express it to people. If you do it, then there is no shame about it. So, just only try harder. And do not complain of wrong view. So, I will talk about it first. By talking before about inversions of perception and knowing, it misses the target. Recounted the story of Subbrahma Devata, 500 celestial nymphs were died instantly and fell into the hell. This was because of without eradicated wrong view, and the seeds of hell were with them in the heaven. Destructive Kamma, Upahataka Kamma, came in and struck them and fell into hell. Even their lifespans were not finished yet. This point is interesting because most of us may think it can live for its lifespan as a devata. They did not have chances for developing good Kamma there, and only for enjoyments. So samsara is not good and very dangerous. The Buddha could not save them directly, but instead could stop it by giving the way of practice to the other 500 celestial nymphs and Subrahma Devata. Dhamma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, 4th of August 1961. The End of the World. A person who knows Dukkha can appreciate Nibbāna more than others. You have to observe the Khandha intensely if you want to know Dukkha. The Khandha will tell you that it has no happiness at all. That this kind of Dukkha has gone is Nibbāna. It will take long to look for Nibbāna at the wrong place. In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha said that Nibbāna was not far away, and near us. The yogis know about this. By practice and knowing that it is true and near us, you have to follow to the end of impermanence. At the end you will see it. Contemplate any one of the Vipassana you like, i.e., the 4 Satipatthana, by contemplation of feeling, and will see it after the end of feeling. By contemplation of mind, and will see it after the end of mind. By contemplation of form, and will see it after the end of form. It is close to this body. This end here, and that is the beginning. Dukkha end and Nibbāna begin. The Buddha taught about it. And I also tell you about this. You can do the experiment with care. There were some who had done it before and had the experiences. At the end of Sankhara Dukkha, Nibbāna exists. Sankhara are mind, feeling, form, Dhamma, and they arise and disappear. And after some time they are totally cease, and not arise anymore, and you will see Nibbāna. At the end of the conditioned Dukkha, Sankhara, unconditioned Sukha, Asankata, exists. At the end of your contemplation of impermanence, and will see it. Nibbāna appears as sun and moon at this place. Here Sayadaw used it as a metaphorical term. The 5 dharmas, wrong view, doubt, greed, hatred, wrong practices in sila are ceased. Without latent defilements Khandha becomes light. The Khandha is heavy because of kilesas. With the lightness of body, in one of his talks Sayadaw mentioned an interesting story. One time a practiced monk traveled alone in a forest and had an accident. He couldn't walk and sit there. Sometime later a man came by and carried him on his back. The monk continued the practice on his back and became an arahant. The layman felt his body lightness. He told the monk, "Then, sir, in the beginning your body is too heavy for me. Now, it seems very light." Instead of telling the truth directly, his answer was, "Maybe it's not the same body as before. Heavy elements of kilesa are disappeared." A documentary film of a Chinese woman who had a lot of hatred and anger to her husband and in-laws very often, that later developed illness. Later to see in a hospital and had an operation. The surgeon took out a few pebble-sized stones changed from the chemical elements from her body. If you see the ending of impermanence once become a sotapanna, a person sees the ending of Sankhara Dukkha and the seed of hell is destroyed. If you still have the seed of hell, don't be feel proud and enjoyment in pleasure. After you have done it away and can be in pleasure, if not like taking pleasure with death sentence in jail. Other people are seeking in pleasure, but no need to imitate them. Noble beings, Arians, have samvega, sense of urgency, by seeing others in seeking pleasure. They feel pity on them, but are also happy for themselves because of free from the worst misfortune, fall into the plains of misery, especially in hells. However long the road may be, always has the end. Here the end is the end of Dukkha. Even it's close to us can't go there with other dharmas. It can be only with the chariot of Noble Eightfold Path. In some of the suttas the Buddha taught us to search Nibbāna in the two armed lengths khandha. First, the insight knowledges discover Sankhara Dukkha, and later supramundane knowledge discovers Nirodha Nibbāna. Sayadaw continued the Ananda's story. There are three worlds, loka. These are space, akasa loka, living beings, satta loka, and conditioned world, sankhara loka. One time the Buddha mentioned these worlds to the monks and said they couldn't go to the end of the world on foot or by vehicles. Without the ending of sankhara loka could not reach Nibbāna. After these words the Buddha went away. The monks did not understand the meaning and asked then Ananda for the answer. He said the 5 khandhas were sankhara loka and the 6 senses bases also. Only by following the Noble Eightfold Path, the world would be end. Observing the 5 khandhas which arise from the 6 sense doors is on the way to the end of the world. In the D.A. of cause and effect process, the effects are sankhara. Seeing the khandha arises is seeing sankhara. Observing anicca is seeing dukkha. With sankhara ends and dukkha also ends. The end of dukkha is Nibbāna. Without sankhara loka the other lokas not exist, i.e., space and beings. They can only exist together. Closing square bracket. Do not mix up Nibbāna with the wholesome Kamma. With only wholesome Kamma can't realize Nibbāna. It connects with dukkha, i.e., Kamma. Magan, path factors, cut off dukkha. They are different things. You can't find Nibbāna in the satta and akasa and only in sankhara loka. This is the main reason except a Buddha no other beings can teach the way to Nibbāna. It exists at the end of sankhara loka. I will talk about sankhara loka. Every resultant dharma is sankhara, arising by conditioning. This itself also will condition other dharmas. In the Buddha's teaching no original cause or the first cause, so the Buddha rejected the creator. For example, according to the D.A. process, ignorance, the cause, right pointing arrow volitional formation, result, cause, right pointing arrow vinanam, result, cause, etc. The 6 sense doors, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind, are called loka. People have wrong view taking them as loka. At the end of sense bases, salayatana, Nibbāna exists. People taking my eyes, my ears, etc. and perceive them as loka. In short, take the mind and body as loka. Contemplate one of the 6 senses bases. You cut off sankhara and satta lokas if you can contemplate him to the end. Nibbāna exists at the end of the khandha or ayatana. Contemplate the arising mind in oneself. Contemplate the preceding mind with the following mind, i.e., Ñāṇa. If someone is not an Aryan and no Aryan mind states arise. Minds are not many. What Sayadaw meant here was for practice by a worldling. According to the Abhidhamma there were 89 types of mind. But Sayadaw made it simple and condensed into 13 kinds of mind for Vipassana practice. You can find the mind at any time. If no other mind arises, then contemplate the in-breath and out-breath minds. By contemplating the impermanent of the minds, their disenchantment and ending, and then sankhara dukkha will end. That is your khandha ends. Therefore sometime I ask you, do your khandha disappear? The ending of khandha is Nibbāna. This may be quite frightening for most people because eternalists are the majority in the world. Knowing the ending is path knowledge. At the ending of sense bases Nibbāna exists.